This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, October 18th, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Joining us now from Sports Illustrated Indiana, Tom Brew. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jim. Happy Friday to you, brother.
Happy Friday. It's a good one. Indiana getting the travel gear on as they head out to College Park, Maryland, to take on the Terrapins tomorrow in a 3:30 matchup. That'll be on BTN. You'll have to use the channel finder to find that. But a great opportunity for Indiana. They go out there, Tom, as a 6-point favorite. One of the rare times, if ever, that Indiana's a road favorite in the Big Ten that's over a team not named Rutgers.
It has been a long time, that's for sure. But there's obviously two things that play into that. This Indiana team has been looking pretty good. Granted against inferior competition, but they've been looking pretty good. And then, against good competition against Michigan State, they played them tough. And then, the flip side of that is, Maryland just got trounced last week by a Purdue team that people were wondering if they would ever win another game. And, Maryland got beat 40-14. So really exposed a lot of weaknesses with this Maryland team. So we'll see. There's certainly plenty of great opportunity here for Indiana to have a great Saturday. But, you never know it till they do it. And that's, we've talked about that for years and years and years with Indiana football. Every time we think they're turning the corner, they have to go out and prove that they're ready to turn the corner, and that starts Saturday. To me, it's an absolute must-win game.
Oh, there's no doubt. For the last couple of seasons, the Maryland games was kind of a linchpin to the season. Of course, it was there were games like being at Purdue where they could have gotten bowl eligible. But before that, the Maryland game was one of those games that had they won, they put themselves on a much better trajectory. And this again is one of those cases where as long as they get this win, they stay on a very good trajectory. And I think that they handle this Maryland team easily because Maryland's going through some stuff, number one, and number two, Indiana is just a better team. They've gotten great, consistent offensive play here of late. That's something Maryland's not getting because they've had quarterback issues. Pigram is probably going to go for them, and he's a guy that's going to be running the ball a lot. So this is going to be an opportunity for this young offensive or defensive front for Indiana to see how much they've grown as well. Exactly.
This it's real critical, I think. This front seven. Really needs to, they talk a lot about run fits and protecting your gaps and all this and that. And they need to be very disciplined against this Pegram kid because he can run. He had a 61-yard run for a touchdown last week against Purdue. And, he's very, very quick. And then McFarland, their starting running back, is a little banged up. He's not sure he's going to be able to go or not, which is certainly a big plus, for Indiana. But certainly this will be a test. I mean, it's, what Maryland does have is a lot of speed in a lot of places, and if they get free and open spaces, they can cause some problems. So it's real important for Indiana to be disciplined on defense and and really tackle well, and especially early in the game. I think it's real important for them, to get some 3 and outs and and start to put some doubt in this Maryland offense's mind.
And offensively, I asked Coach Allen about this earlier this week, but they've got to get closer, at least closer to having a more complete game offensively. Last week against Rutgers, we saw that big lull in the second quarter where they went away from what had been successful and just a stretch of like 6 drives that came up empty where mistakes were made, this, that, the other thing. But they've got to get closer where that offense has a lot less of that and a lot more of a complete performance.
Sure. They had 2 turnovers that were mixed in there too, which I didn't like. But it's to me, you have to look at the big picture offensively, and they scored touchdowns on 5 drives, and they kind of put their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter when they were way ahead. So this offense, I think, is ready for an explosion this weekend because Maryland. Their secondary is not very good. I mean, Jack Plummer, who's a redshirt freshman playing his 3rd game ever, last week against them, threw for 420 yards. And, I could see Indiana doing the same thing this weekend. And because what's surprising is even though they're not very good, they still play a ton of man-to-man. They still play a ton of, cover zero with no safeties back there. And we've talked, since August about, one of the joys of having Michael Penix Jr. quarterback is he can throw a long ball and a deep ball, and I really do see them, breaking a couple big, huge ones, against this Maryland defense that likes to be overly aggressive. I could see, Whop Phillier getting down the field. I can see Nick Westbrook getting down the field. I mean, that's, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Michael Penix throws for 400 yards himself on Saturday.
I agree, and that's the one thing we really haven't seen from this offense. Other than the very first game of the year, that 75-yard touchdown to Nick Westbrook, we haven't really seen these big plays that we know they're very more than capable of doing, which is fine because the season has not gotten to that apex just yet. But I'd sure like to see them be able to hit on some of those.
Well, I think it's going to happen. I mean, they've been really close, and even last week they had guys open and. Michael underthrew Whop one time and, had him down the field the other way and had to step around a guy real quick before he threw and wasn't accurate. But it's, there are many, many times where they've just been, one stride away, from hitting the big ones. Because this receiving core is dangerous. They can get open and they can get open deep. And, he can get them the ball. And, I'm kind of curious, too, just to see how this offensive line holds up. It's obviously Coy Cronk is already out. Hunter Littlejohn, fingers crossed with him as to, when he comes back. But, these guys have done a really nice job, the backups of stepping in. And, I think this is going to be a good test on the road, to see continued improvement out of that offensive line. So that helps with those deep balls, but also I think helps, in getting this running game going because it has been better lately. And, against a little bit better quality defense, I'd like to see that running game continue to get to make some noise.
Absolutely. Earlier in the week, Tom had a really nice piece on Whop Phillier. Talk about that, Tom.
Yeah, I was happy to, Jim. It's he's just an amazing kid, and he's obviously very talented. He's 24 receptions for 324 yards just in the last 2 weeks alone. Top 10 in the country in a lot of categories. And I went back and kind of trace Whop's life through his whole life and, got a chance to talk to his mom quite a bit, his high school coach, and just what it was like for him growing up in Tampa where he had to kind of bounce around between homes. He lived with his mom for a while and she had to take care of some family stuff out of state and lived with his grandmother for a while. And then he had all sorts of residency issues when he was in high school and had to kind of bounce back and forth between grandma and dad. He said, he had kind of a difficult, I would never say it was a rough childhood, but it was difficult because it was ever changing for him. And he survived it all. And, he's just got, he's got that personality that lights up a room and just, had a lot of chances to talk to a lot of people just about how great he is. And, not only going back, but, Tom Allen and Grant Hurd and William Inge, his coaches at Indiana and fellow players, everybody just loves the energy that he brings to the table. And, William Inge said it best. He said he brings so much energy to every practice and every game that everybody's either trying to match him or outmatch him, and it just he just brings that. And it was a nice 2,000 word takeout profile piece on him, and I was very proud of it. And it's done very, very well online at si.com, and just really, really pleased with how it turned out.
Yeah, people they don't understand the lives of a lot of these kids. And Ashawn Riggins is one of the guys that recently left Indiana's football team. And when Matt Weaver was on with me, he talked about the life that Ashawn had grown up with and dealt with. And it's sad that they have to deal with all this stuff, but you don't know what's going on in their lives. And to see someone like Whop, who we now know has gone through so much, but to be such a positive, gosh, you can't be around that dude and not just laugh and have fun. And then on the football field, he's a terror to these defenses, man. But what a great kid.
Sure, absolutely. And, it was just funny when I was talking to his mom, she was just fighting back tears talking about him the whole time because he's just so darn proud of what he's doing right now. And, and she said it best too. It's like, when she was a single mom raising him, had two younger daughters, and growing up in, less than beautiful neighborhoods in Tampa where, there's just a lot of gang issues and drug issues where it's easy for boys to stray the wrong path. And, she never let WAP do that, and WAP never did that. And, he found his way. And, thankfully, had a great senior year in high school at Plant High School in Tampa. And, that's where Tom Allen and his son Thomas played there. And we've got 4 kids from Plant High School on this team right now. And it's been quite the pipeline. So it was, Indiana was always a good option for him. And, and WAP is to this day thrilled that that's the decision his mother made for him.
Indiana's at Maryland tomorrow at 3:30 on the BTN. What do you think the actual how this game ends up? I've already gone on record. I think Indiana wins this game big. I made a friendly bet with a buddy last night. I gave him 13 points. That's how confident I am that Indiana.
Well, then you're a confident guy. It's I am hesitant to think it will be that big, only because we still have never seen this Indiana team go on the road in a game that really matters in the Big Ten and do that. It's like I picked them to upset Michigan State on the road a few weeks back, and it didn't happen. And it's like, I am confident they will win. I just don't know by how much, and I don't know, if like last week Indiana had 2 turnovers on offense and it didn't hurt them one bit. If they have 2 turnovers this Saturday, it might. And it's like. It's sort of like, they're playing Maryland, not Missouri, but I'm still in the show me state. It's like I want Indiana to go on the road and do what you're expecting them to do. I'd like to see them win 40-14 on the road. But will it happen? I don't know. If I had, I'm not, me, I don't gamble on sports, but, if the line is 6, I would take Indiana and think they would win by more than that. But I don't know. I say this is still a team that has to prove to us that they can win games on the road. And, and it's, I'm a big believer that they've got a golden opportunity in front of them right here with this Maryland team, and then Nebraska next week. And, and then home against Northwestern, where they really, really, really should be 7-2 when we wake up on November 3rd. But, we just they just have to go out and prove it. But, I'm on my way there today, and I'm feeling good about it, and I'm really looking forward to them playing a good game on Saturday. And it's I think you're right, that they'll win by at least that much, but we're going to just have to wait and see.
Text in the show from Tim says, still waiting for David Ellis to run a kickoff back for a TD. Does that happen at Maryland? That's a good question. We've been waiting for that breakout to happen.
Well, we could. He's been close a few times, and quite frankly, we also have to worry about that in reverse. Maryland is one of only 7 teams in the country that has both a kickoff return for a touchdown and a punt return for a touchdown this year. So their special teams are pretty darn good. But David Ellis has been close a few times. He's been that one tackle away, and that we can see that. And I'm glad to see he's been involved in the offense more too. He's an exciting kid and just another one of those freshmen, that's going to have a great future at Indiana.
So you are going to Maryland?
Yes, I am. I'm on my way as we speak. So.
I did not know that. Amazing. I will not be there this weekend, but I will be in Nebraska next week. Quick question here, and this is just for fun. If Indiana goes to Maryland, handles business, puts down a hammer, wins nice, very comfortably on the road, Nebraska, even if they barely win, struggle a little bit, is there any possibility that Indiana will go to Lincoln as a favorite?
I would say no, only because of
obvious reasons.
Lincoln at Lincoln, Nebraska at Lincoln. But we talked last week, when I talked to my Vegas insider about what the stuff that was going on, and he thought at the time that all 3 of these games would be pick'em games, and that was before Maryland lost so big and Indiana looked so good. So that one changed a lot. He told me 2 weeks ago that he thought that Nebraska would probably be favored against Indiana, but by 3 or less. And of course Nebraska got killed last week too at Minnesota. So if that same logic applies, it's very possible that Indiana could be favored on that game. But betting lines are betting lines. To me, they just don't matter.
It's just for fun. Like I said, it's just for fun conversation.
It absolutely. But it's just, so it's like, I think, I think a lot of it just sort of depends on this weekend. I think if Indiana, but if Indiana pulls the Jim Coyle game and they go out there and they win by 20, like you're kind of figuring they will, then maybe so. And Nebraska's off this week, so it's could be. But if anything, I would think no more than a field goal in either direction is kind of where it's going to be. And I've never been to Lincoln, Nebraska for a football game, so I'm really looking forward to next week as well. So.
Me as well. I forgot they were on a bye. I think that'll keep them a 3-point favorite. I forgot that they had that time off, so it's hard to it's hard to make a team too much of an underdog when they've had 2 weeks off and they're at home.
Right. Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, just like if you're asking me right now to take my last $20 and bet it on somebody next week, I'm taking Indiana. I really am. Because I've been saying that all along, that's a game that, when I talked at the beginning of the year that Indiana was going to win 8 games, that included winning at Nebraska, so it's one of those things that I expect them to do. And, but like I said, that's a conversation for next week. The first thing they got to do is get through Maryland and make sure that they're 5-2 on their way to Lincoln.
Absolutely, Tom. Safe travels. We'll see you when you return, and have a good one, man.
Great, Jim. Thank you. Happy Friday. And have everybody check out the site at si.com/College Indiana, and we're there for you.
There we go. Tom Brew from Sports Illustrated Indiana. Hey, thanks for listening to the rebroadcast from today's edition of Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, the only daily show dedicated to Indiana University athletics. You can catch us live each weekday on IndianaSportsBeat.com, TheDailyHoosier.com, GrowingTruth.com, or go to Spreaker.com for live notifications. Yeah, that's Speaker with an R, SPREAKER.com. You can also catch the entire show any place you listen to a podcast, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, etc. You can find and follow the show on Facebook or follow me on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers. Thanks again. I hope you have a great day. I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.